Welcome to the Hoja on Architecture podcast. Vernacular Architecture Beyond Earth. Chapter 6, Technique Evolving Design in Space. In our previous episode, we examined matter, the material vocabulary of Martian architecture. Now we turn to syntax, the how of building. Technique is where matter gains movement, where substance becomes structure, and where architecture reveals its intelligence through action. On Mars, technique will not only be a means of construction but also a mode of survival, a choreography of care performed between humans, machines, and the environment. Every civilization has defined itself through how it builds. Stone stacked or carved, timber joined or woven, clay pressed or rammed, each technique expressed a distinct relationship between hand, tool, and place. Vernacular architecture was a record of gestures, the curve of a wall following the sweep of an arm, the texture of a surface preserving the rhythm of touch. Technique, in this sense, was not separate from culture, it was culture crystallized in motion. On Mars, these gestures will return in transformed form, translated into robotic trajectories and algorithmic sequences, yet still carrying the same principle: economy of effort, precision of adaptation. The earliest Martian structures will rely on automated techniques, 3D printing, robotic assembly, and modular prefabrication. The environment demands it. Thin atmosphere, radiation, and isolation make large-scale manual labor impossible. Yet these methods are not replacements for vernacular intelligence. They are its continuation by other means. The robotic arm laying regolith layers repeats the gesture of the human hand stacking adobe. The drone positioning of structural frames echoes the teamwork of scaffold builders. Each layer printed is a digital sediment of a human idea, built with what is available in the simplest possible way. Automation, however, introduces a new kind of craftsmanship, designing the process itself. Vernacular builders relied on intuition honed by repetition. Space builders must encode that intuition into machines. The algorithm becomes a tool, and programming becomes the new masonry. Parameters replace patterns, but the ethos remains identical. Structure emerges from rhythm. Just as the thatcher knew how tightly to weave, the robotic printer must know how densely to sinter. Both are acts of listening, to material, to weather, to time. Time is crucial because every technique has its tempo. Vernacular construction followed the seasons: foundations after the first rains, roofs before the dry heat, repairs before winter. This rhythm shaped community life. Mars, with its long year and volatile temperature cycles, will impose its own building calendar. Structures may only be expanded during light-rich months. Repairs may coincide with resource surpluses. Architecture will once again become a temporal art, paced by planetary rhythm. The act of building will shape the colony's year, just as planting once shaped the agricultural village. This temporal quality transforms technique into choreography. A building is not assembled all at once, but through a sequence of coordinated movements. On Earth, this choreography involved many bodies. On Mars, it will affect humans and machines dancing together. Picture autonomous drones lifting components while astronauts guide them through augmented interfaces. Construction as a duet rather than a hierarchy. The choreography of making will produce its own vernacular rituals. The moment of docking modules, the tightening of seals, the ceremonial removal of protective films. Every repetition will build culture through practice. Technique also dictates the form of labor. On Earth, craft knowledge was distributed through apprenticeship and collective work. The mason's guild, the carpenter's lineage, the village's communal building days. On Mars, skill transmission will occur between humans and algorithms. Each settlement may develop its own construction dialect, coded into local software or specific machine configurations. These dialects will produce regional architectural accents across the planet, such as slight differences in printing patterns, structural meshes, or joinery logic. The result will be a new form of vernacular diversity, born not of ethnicity, but of technique. At the core of all technique lies the question of energy. Every action consumes power, muscular or mechanical. Vernacular builders minimized energy by maximizing intelligence. They used gravity to lift, shade to cool, geometry to stabilize. Mars demands the same wisdom. Energy scarcity will force architects to treat every motion as precious. Techniques will be evaluated not only by efficiency, but by empathy. How well they align with environmental logic. A single robotic movement may replace 10 human tasks, but if it disregards the rhythm of resource cycles, it will fail. Proper technique is ecological timing. This brings us to maintenance, the often forgotten half of technique. Vernacular architecture assumed decay. Every structure was built with repair in mind. Joints are accessible, roofs are replaceable, and materials are renewable. Modern architecture, obsessed with permanence, lost this humility. Mars will restore it. Extreme conditions guarantee degradation, thermal expansion, dust abrasion, radiation fatigue. The most advanced technique will therefore be the ability to fix. Architecture must be designed to heal itself. Modules reprinted on site, panels replaced by identical components, systems reassembled by residents. Repair will not be a burden but a ritual, a renewal of belonging. Technique also shapes social space. The way we build determines how we relate. Vernacular construction was collective because no individual could raise a roof alone. The same will hold in space, though the scale will differ. Group coordination will shift from physical proximity to digital synchrony, yet the emotional effect remains, the sense of shared creation. Architecture constructed collectively gains moral stability. Its walls embody consensus. A Martian habitat printed by humans and robots together will carry that ethos of collaboration in its very seams. Beyond efficiency and collaboration lies the aesthetics of technique. Every method leaves a trace. The striations of rammed earth, the weave of bamboo, the tool marks of stone. On Mars, similar textures will appear. The ripples of regolith printing, the joint lines of modular assembly. Architects should celebrate these as signatures of process, not imperfections. The beauty of vernacular buildings lies in the visible making, the evidence of hand and habit. Likewise, Martian architecture should display its genesis proudly. To hide the trace of construction would be to deny its humanity. As the settlement matures, techniques will evolve. Some will be formalized into standard protocols, others will remain experimental. Diversity will increase with experience. Polar regions may develop ice carving traditions, while equatorial settlements refine sintered dust vaulting. Each adaptation will expand the planet's architectural vocabulary. This dynamic evolution mirrors the history of building on Earth, where methods are localized to topography, climate, and economy. Mars will repeat the pattern at the planetary scale, a network of regional techniques shaped by environment and innovation alike. At a deeper level, technique mediates between mind and matter. To build is to think through the hands, or through their extensions. On Mars, where suits and automation limit physical contact with materials, architects must design new sensory feedback systems. Tools may simulate touch through haptic interfaces. Robots may translate human gestures into scaled actions. This dialogue restores embodiment to an otherwise remote craft. Even in the vacuum of space, architecture remains a tactile art. And yet, for all its technology, the ultimate measure of technique remains ethical. The question is not only whether we can build it, but should we, and how? Vernacular builders answered through moderation. They built enough, never more. On Mars, restraint will again define mastery. Efficiency without empathy leads to exhaustion. Speed without purpose leads to emptiness. The highest technique will be the art of doing just enough. If material gives architecture substance, technique gives it life. It is the pulse within the form, the motion behind the stillness. In every age, technique transforms necessity into expression. On Mars, it will transform isolation into cooperation and scarcity into intelligence. In the next episode, we will turn to spaceform, where the gestures of technique crystallize into geometry and architecture begins to reveal its visible character. The vernacular village has always been our workshop of making. Now it becomes our choreography of construction among the stars. This concludes Chapter 6 of Vernacular Architecture Beyond Earth, Technique Evolving Design in Space. Thanks for listening. See you in the next episode.